Okay, John, you're good to
All
go.
right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Connecticut Paid Leave Authority to order at 9:02 a.m. I'd like to welcome everybody. We'll do an attendance by roll call. Amber, can you take the attendance?
Yes. Bear with me for just a moment. I'm trying to get to our attendance sheet for today. There we go. Okay. Ava Bermudez Zimmerman.
Present.
Isha Canada will not be joining us today. Adrian Cochran.
Present.
Andrea Comer.
Present.
Sheila Hummel.
Present.
Ellen McKitterick. Has Ellen joined us yet?
I haven't seen her.
Okay. Fran Pastore will not be joining us today. Alice Pritchard.
Present.
John Scott.
Here.
Mike Soltis.
Here.
Molly Weston Williamson.
Present.
Holly Williams.
Present.
Justin Zartman.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Very good. I just want to take a minute and thank Britt, Marie, and Sal for their service, and note that they have left the board and will no longer be participating. And I want to welcome Eva Bermudez Zimmerman back to the board as a full voting member. She's been appointed by the Speaker of the House, so welcome back. I'd also like to acknowledge members of the public for joining us tonight. Do we have any legislative folks in here? I can't see on my screen.
Not that we've seen.
Not yet.
Okay, so we'll move ahead. Can I have a motion to approve the June 8th board meeting minutes that were distributed last week? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Is there any discussion or changes? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries.
I think I should, I might need to abstain since I wasn't actually a member at that particular meeting, but totally your call on whether I should or shouldn't.
It doesn't
Oh,
matter.
is you actually at the meeting, so you're allowed to
I'm
vote.
good. Okay,
Yep.
and I'm in the affirmative. Thank you.
Okay,
Great,
very
thanks.
good. Well, that motion still carries. There we go. All right, so Michael, it's your turn. We need to have you lead us in a discussion regarding the resolution to allow the temporary delegation of signatory authority.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And good morning, everybody. So I'm here to discuss the resolution, which would allow the temporary delegation of signatory authority from the CEO to another employee of the authority. Just to sort of level set, if we flash back to a little over a year ago, back when Andrea Barton Reeves was our CEO, and she had a planned absence for a few weeks, the board had to officially delegate her signatory power to Aaron at that time, so we could make sure that we continue to pay our bills, pay our vendors, sort of keep the lights on at the authority. That didn't feel like the most efficient process. Sort of what would have happened had the board not been able to get together, if there wasn't a quorum at the board meeting, if the board meeting was so far in advance that there ended up being a gap in time where no one at the authority could sign for, a vendor's bill. It felt sort of an unnecessary step for a rather mundane occurrence. So sort of flashing ahead to about 8 months ago, we had made a revision to the bylaws, which would allow the board to pass the resolution to grant the power to the CEO themselves to make that delegation, rather than requiring the board involvement every single time. That change to the bylaws was step one. Step two is actually passing a resolution which grants that power, and that's sort of where we are today. So yesterday, I had shared with the board language with the actual resolution. If you look at that language, there's a little bit of extra sections to it, which reiterate some of the previous delegations that we had made. The purpose of that is essentially record keeping. In drafting the present resolution, we were going back and looking at prior resolutions to sort of get a sense of the language we used previously and what delegations we had previously made. And we realized there were several different resolutions, some temporary in nature, sort of the Andrea Aaron situation, and then some more long-term, such as the controller delegation. For our purposes, it didn't sort of make sense to have all these different documents we have to refer to. And honestly, selfishly, for my own sake, if the question ever came up, who can sign this invoice? Aaron's not available. Having to refer to 4 or 5 different resolutions is probably not the best way to do that. So I think we thought it would be better to put it all in one document, reaffirming past delegations as well as this new delegation. So we will have basically everything in one place and the rules for that designation. So you will see the first sort of important paragraph is the reaffirmation of the chairperson and the CEO having the signatory authority to authorize any budgeted payments, no matter the cost, as well as any unbudgeted payments that are under $5,000. That's an existing delegation that continues to exist. Also, there's a paragraph about the controller and the controller's team having the power to authorize payments that are budgeted and under $5,000. Once again, that's also been in place for a long while. The new language is a sort of 2 paragraphs that are in between those paragraphs. One granting the CEO the power to delegate her authority to another employee, and the other paragraph sort of the rules and parameters around that delegation. In a nutshell, those parameters are basically the delegation is meant to be to an employee who is in a managerial position that reports directly to the CEO. The purpose of that is essentially just make it sure it's someone in senior leadership. However, we don't have that as like an official designation, so we wanted to use more objective language to make it clear who that person should be. That's sort of one rule. Second rule, there's a requirement to notify the board. Even though it's temporary nature, we do want to make sure the board is aware of that delegation. The next item is basically the effective date. It becomes effective the date that the CEO is incapacitated or their absence begins. And then the end date is the date that the CEO returns and is able to resume her job functions. And then sort of last bit of parameter is it reiterates that the board can rescind the delegation by majority vote at any time. Sort of on that last point, one thing to note, we did consider whether there should be a maximum time frame for that delegation. For example, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, because it is really meant to be temporary while the CEO is sort of temporarily absent. However, sort of thinking back to the original inspiration for this resolution, we wanted to be sure that a lack of quorum or difficult scheduling didn't derail of the authority of the ability to keep operating as usual. The approach we sort of took was a no news is good news philosophy. If the board's unhappy with it, they can act. If they're happy, they can sort of let it exist. So if the board wishes to rescind this temporary delegation at any given time, they can do so at the next board meeting, hopefully also designating somebody else. And if they really do not want to wait, they can you guys can call a special meeting to rescind that delegation. We don't expect that to occur. This is really meant to be non-controversial delegation, but we did want to make it clear in the resolution that's an option. So that is about it. Hopefully it makes sense. I'm happy to take any questions on the resolution before sort of asking the board to vote on it.
Okay, are there any questions for Michael? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adopt the resolution allowing the temporary delegation signatory authority?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Jessica, you're up. Would you please provide us with a quarterly update on your outreach and engagement activities?
Yes, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. All right.
We can see your screen, Jess.
Thank you. All right, so I thought what I would do, which is what I shared with the committee in our last meeting, is just give an annual recap since we just did our annual report, which you all know was issued earlier this week. So I thought I'd just give an update on our outreach and engagement efforts over the past year. In terms of audiences, we had several different focuses, including employers, workers, third-party administrators, HR folks, legislators, and individuals and groups that are likely to support folks who might need to apply for the Connecticut Paid Leave Program, such as healthcare providers, social workers, victim services organizations, and the like. We had sort of 2 main themes for our campaigns: the worker focus theme, which featured testimonials from actual Connecticut Paid Leave recipients, And we chose this approach because it allows individuals to see people in circumstances that might resonate with them. So the person who's experiencing their own serious health condition can identify with that testimonial. The person who's pregnant or welcoming a new child can identify with that. We also had our employer focus campaign, which had a heavy focus on compliance ahead of our fund recovery efforts and the beginning of penalties and interest. In terms of our actual outreach efforts throughout the course of the year, we hosted or participated in 58 webinars, many which were our own, but you can see some of our different partners listed there on the screen. And we also participated in numerous panels and speaking engagements, including the Governor's Council on Women and Girls. Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro invited us to participate in some tele-town halls. U.S. Department of Labor invited us to participate in a panel celebrating the 30th anniversary of FMLA. Senator Chris Murphy invited us to participate in a roundtable discussion on caregiving, just to name a couple of those. In terms of our newsletters, we sent out 31 newsletters over the course of the year to the various different audiences that I mentioned previously. Our open rates are between 30 and 50%, which is great because we are sharing what we feel is important information. We want to make sure that people are actually opening it and reading it. Our legislator newsletter actually had the best performance with a 65% open rate on the first one that Maddie sent out, which was great. The private plan employer newsletter also great with 50% open rate and 25% click through. And currently we have 142,000 subscribers in our email database. Digital, we had a heavy focus on digital this year, which included social media, search engine marketing, geofencing, streaming audio, CTV and OTT, which is essentially streaming video, video pre-roll, and more traditional display advertising. And in social media, I wanted to highlight some of our advancements. So we saw audience growth across Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. In terms of impressions, we delivered over 3 million on Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, over 1.5 million on LinkedIn, and over 1.7 million on TikTok. And then YouTube, which of course we use not only to share our board and committee meetings, but also our webinars and short videos focused on different topics related to our program. 660,000 video views and over 440,000 minutes watched. On the traditional media side, our outdoor, so our billboards along some of the major highways in Connecticut delivered over 65 million impressions. We used television both to reach the English and Spanish speaking audiences. Radio remained a big focus for us. We used 28 stations for our radio campaigns, and we did 13 interviews over the course of the year. Our public relations efforts included press briefings, op-eds, and letters to the editor. And we also had a profile piece in the Hartford Business Journal. Nancy continues to do a fantastic job with the podcast. One of the things that I love about it is that the guests that she encounters often lead us to additional connections and additional audiences that we can reach out to, which continues to be a really great way for us to expand the awareness of Connecticut paid leave. The all-time downloads stand around 2,000, 1,300 of those were just from this past year alone. And she did release 2 episodes per month, so 24 episodes over the course of the past year. In terms of legislative outreach, of course, you know that Maddie joined us a few months ago and really hit the ground running. She did briefings for each of the legislative caucuses, the House and Senate Dems, Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, and Progressive Caucus. We also participated in the Women's Wellness Fair at the Capitol, sponsored by the Bipartisan Women's Caucus. She updated our legislator toolkit. And again, as I mentioned, the newsletters for legislators had a great open rate, and she continues to send a monthly newsletter with updates. And we also did a geofencing campaign around the legislative office building to reach legislators and their aides who we know often are fielding constituent questions and issues. In terms of our outreach results, web traffic was great frankly, for the past year. We had a increase of 57% year over year web traffic, 7 million page views, over 2 million total sessions. We continue to see people are looking at about 3 to 4 pages per session, which has remained steady, and they're spending on average about 3 minutes on the site. The top 5 geographical areas that we saw traffic from are listed there, and you can see by the bubble map the concentration of where our visitors are coming from. In terms of business registrations, we saw an increase of over 8,000 businesses from the end of the 2022 fiscal year to the end of, the end of the 2021 fiscal year to end of 2022. And sole proprietors, an increase of over 500. Sorry, my screen doesn't want to jump to the next one. And then in terms of claims filed, we did look at the question that AFLAC asked during intake, where did you hear about Connecticut paid leave? Over 65% reported that they heard about the program from their employer, 11% from the Connecticut paid leave website, 12% from a family member or friend, and 12% from some other source. And then of course we have our map there, which shows the concentration of claims on a per 10,000 resident basis throughout the state. Again, our annual report was issued on the 11th. It was provided to the legislature, the congressional delegation, and the advocates. We did have a press briefing on Tuesday, and we issued a release as well. And the release is linked in here, so you can certainly read it if you would like to. And we just received word yesterday that an op-ed that Fran wrote will appear in the Connecticut Mirror next week, and that focuses on the work of the authority over the course of this past year as well. I did some social media posts highlighting some of the more sort of headline or eye-catching statistics about the program as well. And then lastly, just wanted to give you an update on our website redesign and replatform. There are a couple of screenshots here, but I'm actually going to pull up the site and click through so that you can see kind of what it's looking like right now. We are currently doing user acceptance testing. And our team is working with our vendor on finalizing some of the different integrations that allow connection between Connecticut paid leave and the AFLAC claims portal, ForgeRock, which allows people to log in through the ct.gov site, et cetera. So let me just switch over so that I can show you what the site is looking like. Let's see. Okay, can you see? I am always unsure when I have 2 screens up if I'm sharing the right one.
We can see your screen.
Great, thank you. All right, so this is, and just keep in mind, we're still working on it. So if you see areas where there's sort of placeholder copy, we're still working through that. But just wanted to scroll through and let you see the work in progress. So we have our testimonial recipients. When you click on these, you'll be able to watch their video of them, talking in their own words about the program. We're really excited that we're going to have a page all about the differences between Connecticut paid leave and FMLA, which we think will really help, clarify for folks how the 2 programs interact. We've created this new page called the application document checklist that will put in one place everything an individual needs to know when they're going to file a claim, the different kinds of documentation that they'll need, et cetera. So if someone wants to kind of get a jump start on looking at what documents even before they start their claim, they can do that. We've really expanded our information for businesses and employers and really separated it out so that each individual person can know exactly what they need to do to register if they're an employer, a sole proprietor, a third-party administrator. We have put extensive information about private plans and all the information related to that. We'll also have a resources and guides section where we'll have all of our PDFs, videos, any information in one place. And so the individual can click on the role that relates to them and get all that information. So this page, or this site has about 45 pages, so I won't click through all of them, but just wanted to give you a bit of a flavor for how the site is looking and coming together. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about my recap over our work over the past year, the website, the annual report, or anything else anyone may be curious about.
Are there any questions for Jessica?
I just wanted to repeat on the launch date. Well, I think you mentioned it, but
For the website,
correct.
so it's not set in stone because we are still working through some things, but we are hoping for end of August, early September, but we'll keep you updated as we work through.
Alice, you have your hand up?
I do, thanks, John. Was just curious, Jessica, if faith-based organizations are part of the outreach plan. I didn't see them called out as one of the organizations that may be helping people who are going to use the leave.
Yes, thank you for that question, Alice. They are, and in fact, Maddie, through her work with Quelf, has a pretty extensive list of organizations for us to connect with. So that is definitely something that we want to put more of a focus on moving forward.
Anybody else?
This is Mike. I just have one observation. I thought the annual report looked terrific, had great substance. So thank you to everybody who participated in preparing it.
I
Thank
agree
you, Mike.
wholeheartedly.
Thank you so much. And Jessica, the majority of credit, she had spearheaded the report and the design as well. So it's really, they all worked on it. It was a team effort in terms of content, but she was our quarterback.
Thank you. As I said to Erin yesterday, it takes a village to raise a child and to write an annual report. So I thank my village for all of their help with that.
Molly, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in to say how awesome the new website is looking and how thoughtful and how much it builds on all of the great work there, but also is really designed to be thoughtful. So I just wanted to lift up how great that is.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's another that's been a labor of love, but we are really excited for when it goes live, and we think that it's going to be very well received by our constituents.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move on the agenda. Thank you, Jessica. All right, we're on to the committee reports. Policy and personnel, Mike.
Hey, good morning. Our committee met this month and we discussed the resolution to allow the temporary delegation of authority, which the board has just approved. And we also received an update on the private plan policy revisions.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Outreach and engagement, Molly.
The committee met. We heard a lot about the year-end review from Jessica, which sounded a lot like the update folks just got, as well as hearing some legislative updates from Maddie.
Very good. Thank you. Finance and audit, Holly.
Yes, the committee met last month for a brief meeting and we received a run through of the financial reports, which David is going to present to you all this morning.
David, I guess you're up.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Holly. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to go over the financial results for the month of May.
We can see your screen, Dave.
Thank you for the confirmation, as always, Amber. Okay, so for the month of May, our expenditures were $1.3 million. That was slightly higher than what we had budgeted by $131,000. That doesn't happen too often. But the main, well, first of all, let me point out that year to date, though, our spending is $10.3 million, and we are better than budget by almost $5.5 million. So that 1 month anomaly doesn't affect our long-term results now or even for the last month of the fiscal year. The significant expenditures for the month were salaries and related expenses at $559,000. Grievance adjudication, or the money that we pay DOL to work on our appeals, they had finalized their billing for 3 quarters, and that was $377,000. And so that was the main driver of the negative variance. It was really a timing difference because we thought we were going to pay those by quarter earlier in the year. But by the time everything got finalized, we paid for them all at once during the month of May. Going forward, we do expect to pay those quarterly as we budgeted. Outreach expense was $182,000 for all the great things that Jess had described earlier. The contact center was $128,000. And so those were the significant expenses for the month of May. Moving on, if my screen will cooperate with me. There we go. Okay, so for abundant bond expenditures, our spending for the month was $190,000, including things like the web redesign that we're doing, although we didn't actually spend any of that money this month. Fund recovery system, which just went live about a week or so ago. So there'll be more on that at future meetings to come. And so we were better than budget by $35,000. Year to date, we spent $1.7 million on the fund recovery system, on the website redesign, and a couple of other things. So we're better than budget right now by $3.7 million, and we expect that variance to continue through the end of the fiscal year. Bond money to date, we have about just over $3 million left of the $16 million. That's been allocated. So we'll have that available for the current projects going forward. As far as contribution activity for the month, I am out of place. We had a positive variance of $13 million. I'm sorry, $14.2 million. We had negative activity of $23.6 million. The main driver of that positive budget was benefits paid. We had $24.5 million during the month of May. We also had a positive variance of investment income of $2.2 million. The interest rate there is about north of 5%. So that's why we're better than budget, because we had budgeted less than 1 at the time. Our contribution activity was just under $600,000. That was worse than what we budgeted by about $1 million, but more than offset by the investment income we earned. Year to date, our contribution activity has been almost $148 million. We're better than budget by $164.5 million. And the main drivers of that are the same reasons that I discussed monthly. Benefits paid have been less than what we budgeted, and the investment income was better than what we budgeted for the same reasons I just discussed. The contribution fund as of May was $531 million. And again, main drivers of that are contribution revenue. We've made over $954 million of that to date, in addition to $369 million of benefits going out the door to date. Just a quick look at the balance sheet for June. We have over $552 million of assets. The biggest asset, of course, continues to be the short-term investment fund at over $518 million. Again, that's earning north of 5% of investment income. We still have $12 million at Aflac in an impressed account, within an impressed account, and that is earning about 3.9%. We recently got an increase in the rate from Aflac for that as well. Just a preliminary view of June activity. We had $1.4 million for the month of June. Biggest driver of that was salaries and related expenses. We had 3 pay periods in the month of June. That typically happens twice a year, so that's why that's higher than usual. All the other remaining expenditures were the typical ones: outreach, United Way support. We did have insurance annual renewal of our insurance expense for the year. Most of the insurance was paid in the month of June at $138,000 of annual premiums. Benefits paid for the month of June were almost $30.7 million. We paid out, we reimbursed Aflac for 5 weeks. That happens a few months out of the year. So that, if you're wondering why that's a little higher than usual, that's why we had the extra week. We are seeing somewhat of an uptick in benefits payments going out. We'll see if that trends. We also made our first repayment of bond money to the state in the month of May in the month of June, I'm sorry, for over $2.1 million. And we'll be doing that over the next 10 years annually towards the end of the fiscal year. Just want to talk for a second about contribution activity in the month of June. We actually had net contribution activity of negative $52,000. How did that happen? We had regular contribution activity coming in of over $910,000, but we had a higher than usual amount of refunds that we paid in the month of June. We paid out over $962,000 of refunds, and the main driver of that was refunds to private plans who had contributed to the authority when they shouldn't have, because they already had private plans. So we have certainly let those private plans know that they paid into us erroneously, so they stopped paying into the plan. Most of them have. We still have a few that we're following up on, but most of them have gotten the message because they shouldn't be doing that, and it just creates extra work for everybody to have to return the funds. But this level of refunds was the one-time thing. This isn't going to be a monthly trend at this level or anything like that. It doesn't negatively affect the solvency of the fund or anything like that. So that's what's going on there. Oh, and investment income was $2.1 million. Again, we're earning north of 5%. Okay, so we have a forecast for the end of the year. I know it's July already. These forecasts were mostly based on May numbers. We just finalized June. The actual results year to date will be pretty close to this. We actually think they'll be a little better once we finalize everything. It is the end of the fiscal year, so we are dotting the I's and crossing the T's and checking that we booked everything for the year before we finalize results. But having said that, we expect that we'll be at about $2.9 million of net activity for the year for the operating budget net. So that's a negative $21,000. But keep in mind that includes the fact that we only transferred $15 million of the administrative fee, not 20. As you may remember, we didn't need to transfer the $5 million for the last fiscal quarter because we had enough money in the operating reserves already, so we didn't have to do that. Expense-wise, we're ahead of budget by almost $5 million, and so that's roughly where we'll be by the end of the year. And as far as contribution activity, we expect to have a net activity of about $116 million, better than budget by $171.5 million. And again, the largest drivers of that are the benefits paid being less than what we budgeted and the investment income being higher than what we budgeted. So that's what's going on finance-wise at the authority. Does anyone have any questions?
Are there any questions for Dave? Dave, I see your hand up.
I was just wondering, Dave, what new plans in place does the team have to avoid the private overage, the private overpayments that you mentioned?
So I
Yes.
can take,
Oh,
do you want me to take that one, Dave?
sure. Go ahead.
So we have a few things in place because that refund referenced not just one quarter, but in many of those private plans, they had been remitting contributions to us for multiple quarters. So there are a few things that we're doing. One, because we have some new systems in place and we can spot those contributions coming in faster and return them faster. So we don't have that sort of build up. Two, we've talked to those private plans and said, stop. You should stop doing this. What in the world are you doing? Three, we actually have a meeting with the Insurance Association of Connecticut in 2 weeks, where we'll be reinforcing that it is incumbent on the insurers to make sure that their employers understand what they're doing and stop remitting contributions to us. Additionally, with our private plan audits, we do a contribution audit. That's one of the 4 types of audits. And the fact that these plans are giving money to us raises concerns that it is possible that they are potentially over deducting. It's not necessarily the case, right? It could be that, they're paying their insurance premiums through some sort of other account and they're just not really doing a good job of managing sort of what the left and right hands are doing. But we have the ability to audit and to really put a focus on that to make sure that employees are not double contributing, once to us and once to their private plan. And so I think having that audit ability will also help enforce that they should stop doing that. And finally, we are drafting revisions to the private plan policies. One of the proposed revisions, which you will be seeing next month after policy and personnel kind of has a chance to review, is a potential penalty for private plan companies that repeatedly remit contributions to us. Not on the first, even not on the second. I think we give people a few tries as drafted right now. But if they continually remit contributions to us when they shouldn't, we'll start imposing penalties because at a very basic level, it causes work to us. We're not in the business of shuffling money around. And so we need to put a stop to it, but it's also potentially a problem in terms of over deduction. So they're multifaceted approach to making it stop.
I have a suggestion, and I'm not sure if it's a viable one, but I'll put it out there. In the long term, we'll have a better and more accurate read of the money that's supposed to be coming. So I'm curious if technological changes where you flag that person's amount coming in, if it's over deducted, and that way so let me backtrack here and simplify. In the next few years, when we're a little bit more aware of how much employers are sending over or private plans are being sent over, I'm assuming we'll have a better picture of what's normal and what could be abnormal. And if that's the case, if there's a technological ability to flag those over deductions and catch them quickly rather than letting them compile. So just curious if that's
so they shouldn't give us any, right? The only thing a private plan, only thing a private plan should do would be, because they get approved the month before the end of the quarter, an approved private plan is supposed to pay that last quarter. So there may be some reporting that we can do to make sure, these are the recently approved private plans. Did they pay that last quarter that they're supposed to pay? And then make sure they don't pay the subsequent quarter. That is something I think we could probably have, we could probably work on that. And then, as you referenced, we really don't want these contributions to stack up. And now that we've got the new system, the Dave's team is really kind of right on top of that. And so those are being processed much more quickly. And so if there's an issue, we can spot it more quickly. But I think your suggestion about kind of keeping an eye on them for that kind of new private plans is
Just
a
a
good one.
mechanism, because let's say Dave is out, Dave is awesome, and we know he's awesome, but let's say Dave is out, or you have new team members coming in and they're
Yeah.
just not keen to balance our budget and make sure that we're doing our due diligence, having some stopgap in flagging.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think we could work. Amy is really good at running reports, creating and running reports. So I think we can work something
Yeah.
out there.
We have a process in place already that after the end of every quarter that we flag for those private plans that we know exist, so we can get the contributions back to them. Is there room for better automation? Yeah, absolutely. Sure. We've taken steps to that already, as indicated. I do want to give that to my team, because ever since we switched to QuickBooks Online from QuickBooks Desktop, and we switched to Bill.
Dave, I think we're losing you.
Yeah, Dave's been having internet trouble. But I think what he's talking about is we switched to a few online solutions, including upgrades with QuickBooks and with Bill.gov. I'm not even sure what it's called. But there are ways that we can do these things more quickly. Thank you.
Molly, I see your hand up.
Sure, I just had two quick questions. One, just mechanically, when you're getting these over contributions from employers who shouldn't be contributing at all because they have private plans, is the money being remitted to the authority by the employer or by the insurer?
It's being remitted either by the employer or, most often, a third-party administrator, so a payroll
Got it.
processor. So the insurer is sort of out of the picture. We are pulling them back into the picture because we have ways of connecting with them, and they have an interest in making it work.
Got it. That makes a ton of sense. I guess my second question, because it sounds like you're already very concerned about the potential that over contribution is a result of over deduction, and thinking about that in the audit process, which makes a ton of sense. Is there a mechanism to make sure that if there is an over deduction, which is leading to this over contribution, that when the authority refunds the money to the employer is refunding the money to the employees?
So we are telling the employers, this is not your money. You know, obviously this money needs to go back to the employees, and sort of sending them on their way with that instruction. We don't currently have an enforcement mechanism to validate that the money is going back to the employees. If the money is not going back to the employees, technically it's a wage and hour problem because it's an unlawful deduction. So, you know, we maintain very close relationships with DOL, wage and hour. So, you know, I think that is probably the path if we were forced to say, you know, if the money is going somewhere that it's not supposed to go. Right now, we do think that it is often benign. And again, I want to be really, really clear. We do not know that it is the result of over deductions. That was why we're going to audit, because it could very well be that it's just money's going to be coming from different places. So we're going to work through that, but we want to make kind of everybody aware it's a problem, and these are the steps we're taking to fix it.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, David, thank you very much. Erin, it's your turn. Would you please give us your CEO report?
Thank you so much, John. So the annual report took up a lot of oxygen, particularly in the last few weeks, but I think it was worth it. I think it's important for people to see not just sort of the basic statutory requirements, which can be very dry, but also get an understanding of what we do. So I hope that you all are as pleased as we are with the report and with the work. I want to take a moment to just elevate and talk about one of our partners, United Way. They have been partnered with us since 2021. They have a dedicated team of 15 people, or up to 15 people. There's a couple vacancies, who support our contact center. In the report, you'll see the sort of types of questions that they handle for us. It really is the main resource for employers who have trouble with registering with us, who have questions about the contributions, have questions about they did the contributions wrong. The person who did them is no longer working for them, and now they're locked out of the system. But they also are really a great source of information for folks who have general questions about the program. But they haven't filed a claim yet. Any claim-specific questions are primarily go to Aflac, but people who just want to have a better understanding of our program. And so they've been a great partner. They handle, you know, thousands of claims, or not claims. We had to change our words, so we call them cases. So there were over 15,000, almost 16,000 cases that they handled in the last reporting year. And so just want to take a moment to publicly appreciate all the work that they're doing. There has been a change of leadership over there. We've been working directly with Kate Quigley as the director of the CT Paid Leave Program unit. Kate has recently been promoted, so she will still have some oversight role, but she has other responsibilities. And Unique Givens, who's been a supervisor really since the beginning, has now been promoted to Connecticut Paid Leave. So I want to just congratulate both Kate and Unique on their promotions and on their work. We have a yearly contract with United Way. We put in the budget that we're going to continue working with them, so we have in the contract the ability to extend. So we're going to be exercising that for this year. And we just want to take a moment to appreciate them. They are often the first and sometimes only people who most of Connecticut workers sort of interact with on our behalf. And we do get surveys from the people who interact, and they are uniformly positive. I really rarely see such positive numbers on surveys. So I just want to take that moment. Additionally, I wanted to just remind you that Maddie sent every member on the board the legislative report, which just showed not only the bills that directly affected our operations, but also the bills we were watching, because they create outreach and education opportunities or partnership opportunities. She included some information about bills that did not pass, mostly just for your information, because we've been talking about them for the past 6 months. So if you had any questions about what passed, what didn't pass, what we're doing, please feel free to share and reach out to Maddie or to me. Maddie's on a well-deserved vacation out west this week, but she'll be back in a couple of days. And then finally, I just wanted to reiterate what John started the meeting with, which was an appreciation for Britt Marie and for Sal. Sal has been with the authority since the beginning. And, you know, he had a lot of scheduling conflicts. And so it was challenging for him, but he made every effort to attend and share his input, and we appreciate that. Britt Marie was a mid-season replacement, but fabulous. Really brought a lot of legal knowledge, a lot of subject matter expertise, and we really appreciated both of their work. Ava is taking Sal's seat, which is fabulous. We love that Ava has been such a valuable and contributory member of the board. So we're so thrilled that you are still on the board and in a new role. We are working with the governor to refill Britt Marie's place and the comptroller to kind of backfill for Ava. So you'll have a couple new members starting next month, hopefully. And then I just want to also appreciate all of you who are staying with us, and we are so happy that you are with us. We appreciate your time and your energy and your goodwill, and appreciate that you're always there when we call or text or email with a, hey, can we talk for a minute? We need advice. We need to ask a question. As well as your participation in the committees and on the board. So thank you very much. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Erin. Any questions for Erin? Hearing none. Do we have any old business today? How about new business? I think we've come to our favorite part of the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned at 9:52 a.m. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.